thank you all for being here. I know it's after lunch, so I hope you don't have a Kanak attack while I'm speaking. So we at the Division of Forestry and Wildlife have really been, in the recent years, looking at innovative funding mechanisms. The majority, if not all of our funding, comes from government agencies, federal, state, and county. But we really want to share the impacts that our forests have outside of its intrinsic value. So from that came the Forests for Life, Hawaii Division of Forestry and Wildlife Sustaining Our Island Earth. We have 4 different kind of programs within this idea. Wood for working in Hawaii, so everything from building materials to luxury goods. Koa for canoe forests, so that's really reconnecting the idea that our forests are important to us culturally and that we need to maintain the integrity of our forests so that we can continue to have access to certain items in order to practice our cultural practices. The water replenishment partnerships, which really clings on to the idea that without our forests, we wouldn't have our deep wells of our aquifers. Our forests really act as a sponge. 100% of the water that we have comes through some sort of precipitation, and our forests collect that water and allow it to filter down into our aquifers. And then finally, what we'll be talking a little bit more about today are carbon offset credits. So in this presentation, we'll just go over a little bit of a larger snapshot of what the state greenhouse gas situation is right now and how forests play into that. And then I'll talk specifically about 2 different projects that we're working on. So this graph is from the Hawaii Greenhouse Gas Emission Report from 2015. It goes from 1990 all the way into projections into 2025. Everything above this zero barrier are emissions, and everything below are sinks emissions. So what we can see here is the only area that is actually a sink is agriculture, forestry, and other land uses. We can see a downward trend here and projected continued downward trend of our emissions, but unfortunately we don't really see an increase in our sinks. And this is really what we're hoping to address at the division. Then the next slide we'll look at is looking at this and seeing specifically what our sinks are at the state. So we have 1% of our sinks are landfill yard trimmings and food scraps, 12% are urban trees, but the majority of our sinks are actually from forest carbon. So you can really see that these play a really huge role in achieving our 2045 statewide net sink goal. We also came up with this infographic that helps to kind of explain the processes of how forests actually sequester this carbon. So pretty much anything we do throughout the day it requires fossil fuel burning activities, which release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That carbon dioxide traps heat and warms our earth. But healthy forests absorb that CO2 and release oxygen, which helps to cool our earth. So the bigger our forest footprint, the more CO2 is captured. So now I'll talk about the 2 different projects that we have going on. The first one is Pu'umali, which is on the slopes of Mauna Kea. This project is 5,500 acres. You can see right now it's not much of a forest, but we're hoping to change all that. We went kind of 2 concurrent ways with our projects. One is to contract out the entire project, have someone else manage it, and the other one is that we would manage it in-house. So Pu'umali, we actually put out a request for proposals and contracted out this entire project to Pono Pacific, which is a for-profit natural resource management company. So they'll do everything from the verification to the planting of the trees. One of the main stipulations within this contract was that a large part of the trees outplanted would have to be the mamani tree because this area used to be prime palila habitat. And our Palila bird, which you can see here, actually only has 2,000 individuals left in the wild. So this is already one of the co-benefits that we're seeing from this project. And this was pre-planned, but we are hoping that, by doing this project, not only are we, increasing the carbon storage, but also providing more habitat for some of our endangered species. These are some more pictures of the area, some outplanting of some koa trees. And as you can see, majority of the area is just alien grassland. So a lot of work ahead. We worked with USGS on calculating how much how much carbon this project could sequester. So on this bottom map here, all this yellow bit is alien grassland, and the dark green is native forest. So this is what the land cover currently is, and this is what we are projecting it to be after the end of the project. As you can see, there's pretty significant change in coverage for forests. And with this change, we'll estimate that there will be about 98,000 tons of carbon additionally sequestered by just this landscape. Similarly, we looked at water recharge. So this bottom map is showing that what the current recharge rates are. And this top map is the projection of how much additional recharge we could have. The dark blue area is showing the higher levels of water recharge. With this project, we estimate that there'll be an additional 500 million gallons of water recharged into our aquifers every year. One of the other things I just wanted to point out here is, if you can see in the back maps, you can actually see, this is satellite imagery, and you can actually see what the land cover is for areas outside this. So there's huge potential within the state to continue similar projects and really increase our carbon storage and our water recharge. So our next project is on Maui, and this project is going to be administered through the Division of Forestry and Wildlife. So the Kahiki Nakula Forest Carbon Project is very similar landscape with this alien grassland, but with a major difference that this runs directly into the ocean. So one of the co-benefits that we'll see directly from this project is that the reduction of during large rain events, the reduction of any sediment going into the ocean, and it will help to protect the reefs. So in this image, you can kind of see that there's bare areas of ground. So anytime that there's going to be rain, all this dirt and the carbon with it will be running down and into the ocean. We've already started to do some outplantings. We'll be doing largely koa trees with a few other varieties. But what the hope is as the koas grow, they'll shade out these alien grasslands, and the seed bank will allow for other native species that were previously in this location to come up through. So we'll have a pretty diverse forest. Again, we worked with USGS on looking at the carbon storage potential. So this bottom map is the current land cover, which is the majority of it is alien grassland with some native shrub and native forest. This is the after projection, which will be majority native forest. And for this project, we're predicting or estimating that there'll be 94,000 tons of carbon stored additionally on this landscape. And again, we looked at the water recharge rates. I feel like this map is a little bit more impressive on the change in the colors. You can see we go from dark red here to pretty dark blue. Again, this project is estimated to increase water recharge by 500 million gallons annually. Another one of our co-benefits of this project is biodiversity. There's over 100 different native species that inhabit these areas, and just by improving their habitat, we'll also be allowing them to thrive. So some of the animals include the Hawaiian hoarhoe bat. We have the Maui parrotbill, which is another endangered species. We have the apapane, We have the koa bug and probably a multitude of other invertebrates that we're not quite aware of, and iconic species such as the nene that will really benefit from this project. Another huge benefit will be the addition of green jobs. As I said, DOFA will administer this grant or this project, but so that it's beyond the scope of what we're already doing. So it will either mean that we're going to be hiring more people to help us execute this project, or that we'll be contracting out with other companies, stimulating the economy with folks to help us build the fences and do the outplanting and control the species. So either way you look at it, we'll be providing green jobs. Another co-benefit is that this area has over 5 miles of hiking. So I don't know if you've ever hiked in this kind of terrain or versus hiking in a forest, but I personally think that it is a lot more beautiful and enjoyable to be hiking in a nice, beautiful native forest. So there's hopefully a recreational enhancement as well. So finally, I just want to go over some of the project specifications. We'll later on today be going into details about this to look at how this affects the feasibility of this project as a carbon offset project. So as I said, USGS gave us an estimate about 94,000 tons of carbon. The project includes fencing, site preparation. This area is pretty remote, so we're going to have to be sling loading a lot of the materials, if not all of them, up to the area. Invasive species removal, outplanting, and certification. So this is something that we were talking about earlier today. Hawaii, at least within our division, are currently not coming up with our own protocol, but we will. We actually have already gone out for bid and have selected one of the voluntary standards. So that's in the way that we'll be going. And then the total budget for the project over a 50-year period will be $10.5 million. And that's all.